Hi there, and welcome to the Pearls from My Mom podcast. Every mom has special pearls of wisdom she passes on to her kids. In this podcast, we'll be talking about those pearls of wisdom, as well as the life lessons that our moms have passed down to us. We will be sharing to keep the legacy alive. Hello, and welcome to Pearls from My Mom, the podcast. My name's Jessie. I'm your host, and I am so happy you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I have a really nice interview with just a really sweet lady. Her name is Nancy McGee. She is a residential crisis counselor. She works with abused women and children in Cornwall, Ontario. She is just overall a really, just like I said, a genuinely nice person. I actually met her through her son, who I had been on his podcast. His name's Alexander, and he has a podcast, The Podcaster's Coach. He's a super cool dude, and he introduced me to his mom, thought she'd be great for the show, and she absolutely is. So let's jump right in and talk to her. Hey, Nancy, how are you?
I'm fine, Jessie. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm so excited that you're here to tell your mom's story. Thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Well, let's jump in. Let's have you talk about, why don't you tell us about your mom? Start off and tell us anything that you want to tell us about her, anything about her background, all that stuff. Give us the goods on your mom here.
Okay. Well, first of all, my mom's name is Bertha Elizabeth Chouinard. That's a French name, Chouinard, but she spoke English. The whole family speaks English. She didn't like her name Bertha. She was named after her mother, Bertha. So she went by the name of Elizabeth. But the funny thing about your podcast, and me speaking about my mom, is that her nickname was Pearl. All her friends called her Pearl.
That's awesome. That's perfect for us.
I know, isn't it? I don't know why. I'm thinking that she once told me that my dad said she had teeth like pearls. So I guess that's why she was called Pearl. But all her friends and the in-laws called her Pearl. But other people called her Elizabeth. So she had two. She was born in 1914. So she had 5 siblings, and I think she was the oldest. My mother probably had some jobs, but I don't know what type of jobs she would have had. She probably had some jobs to help out her family. But she did help out my grandmother, take care of her father, and her father had polio, so he couldn't walk. So she was at home most of the time taking care of her dad. I'm not sure if it is polio, but he couldn't walk, so in those days I think it was polio. But after that, she married my dad. I believe she was about 27 years old at the time. And she got married during World War II. Had 2 children right away. And then my dad went overseas for 7 years. Then when he came back, she had 3 more children. So basically, my mom was a homemaker all her life.
For sure. That's an important job, and that's pretty normal for that time period, right?
She probably had little jobs to help out the family, like cleaning homes or even making bullets in the factory for the war, something like that. But I really don't know. But I'm pretty sure my mom did her bit to help everybody,
I'm sure she sounds like she would have been like a really good caretaking type person, because she was the oldest of all her siblings, and then she had to help her dad. So I bet it sounds like she would have been like nurturing or a really good caretaker.
Yeah, and guess where I got that from? Anyways, I'm the youngest of her children, and I think my mom was always old to me, because when my mom had me, she must have been in like 40. She must have been 47, and she was old when she had me. Because when you're like 10 and your mother's like 57 or 47, whatever it is, you think she's old. Like I always thought when you're 30 years old, you're old. When I was a kid, so I always thought my mother was old. I don't ever remember her being young. So when I was 10, she was probably 47. When I was 20, she was like 57. When I was 30, she was 67. When I was 40, she was 77. So, and I was 56 years old when she died at 92.
Wow.
Yeah.
She had an amazing long life. That's awesome.
Well, my grandmother died at 100.
Whoa.
Yeah. We got the gene.
that bodes well for you then, I think.
Yeah, as long as you take care of yourself. But we do have
Mhm.
that bonus. We have the gene. So my mom was, because I listened to your other podcast, and a lot of people had their mom when they were in, at the 80s, and their moms had careers and stuff like that. I didn't know that of my mom at all. My mom was always a homemaker who I remember only wearing an apron, well, and clothes, an apron,
Yeah.
and clothes underneath the apron, and
Good choice.
and when I'd come home from school, she'd have her apron on, and she'd be sitting at the kitchen table. She'd be playing solitaire and having a cigarette. Uh, she'd always be there. My mom was always there. So I can't really say she went anywhere, you know.
That's awesome. That's kind of like it's like a Donna Reed kind of like I want to say American Dream, but you're Canadian. But like I mean that's like that's the picture perfect. I think housewife role of that
Right.
time. So I think that's
right. But our house was not Donna Reed. No.
no.
It came with complications, but that's another story. Our house was kind of like an Archie Bunker home.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That it was kind of like that. More like Archie Bunker home than Donna Reed. My mother did everything for my father, and my father was opinionated and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Also, probably pretty normal for the time.
Yeah.
So, like, yes,
Yeah.
that's all right.
Yeah. And when we would look at the Donna Reed show, which I remember, we always wish we had a family like that. We looked at our mother and dad and said, "Why can't you be like that?" So, but it wasn't like that. It's not true life.
Nah, nothing ever is. Just look at Facebook and you'll see all kinds of perfection on there that's not real. So
yeah, right, right. But when I was young, I remember when I was about 10 years old, I was involved with the Community Boys and Girls Club. That's in Montreal. We lived in Lower Westmount. It was called Selby Street. Now there's a highway there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know Montreal area?
I do actually. When I first moved to Canada, we moved to Laval, we were just right across the river from Montreal. Like we could literally see Montreal from our front window.
Well, we all lived in Montreal. We were all born there, and we all lived there. Anyways, so when I was a kid, I would be in theater groups, mostly musicals. We put on a lot of musicals like Peter Pan, let me see, Cinderella, Sound of Music, things like that. And I would practice my songs and dance in front of my mom, and she just loved it. My mom loved to sing, but I never saw her dance. My mom was really kind, Jesse, because I would make peanut butter and jam sandwiches for the entire cast. Yeah. And then and she didn't say anything about it, but my father would have had a fit. But she would kind of help me hide sandwiches from my father by distracting him so I could get out without him seeing me. So, I'm running up the hill with 2 bags of sandwiches, peanut butter and jam sandwiches. Because, when I'd go there and I'd have my sandwich, people would be looking at me. The kids would be looking at me. So I kind of felt somebody must have been hungry. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when I go on Saturday mornings, I had those sandwiches ready for everybody. And my mom didn't say anything about that. And those days were hard. You just can't make sandwiches and give them away, I guess.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Well, that's really nice. It sounds like she, like you said, she was a caretaker. She was okay with you taking care of others, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. And my mom was really good at watching me practice, and she'd be the audience, and I'd be singing all kinds of songs and dancing. She'd sit there and she'd have a big smile on her face. She'd say, "Okay, Nancy, make sure you smile. Look at them in their eyes, make sure you stand up straight. You don't want to be hunched." And she'd help me with stuff like that. We put on these plays. But the thing is, my mom was an introvert. Now I know. Then I didn't. Before I thought she didn't love me. But now I know my mom was an introvert because she never came to any of my plays. Just,
Oh, really?
yeah, just once she came. Once in all those plays that we did. And we're talking, Jesse, big productions. For a little kid, the production went on for like 2 hours, and we had sets, we had costumes. I mean, that place was packed. And it would take us months before we put on a production. So it wasn't just a little 15-minute thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She came just once with my brother. It was Annie Oakley, and I was Annie. I was the star of it. And I didn't expect to see her, but she was, when the curtains opened, she and my brother were right in the front. I was, I just, I was so surprised and so happy. Through the whole thing, I had a big smile on my face, and sometimes you can't smile all the time. I was singing, You Can't Get a Man with a Gun.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I was shooting off the gun. You know, it's a plastic gun, but you would hear in the background bang, bang, and I would point it at my brother and my mother, and they would laugh. It was unbelievable. But that was the only time that she ever came to anything. We had mother and daughter banquets. She never came.
Oh, did that hurt your feelings, or I mean, like, what was your relationship like?
I, I didn't say anything, but I just didn't think she loved me, you know. But she always
Oh.
hugged me and kissed me and everything. And I say, why didn't you go? She'd say, I have to get my hair done, or I don't have the clothes, or something. She always made some kind of excuse. But I was always, I did have a kind of a substitute mother, kind of. This woman who was the director, and she used to work at the club, Unity Club. She came to mothers and daughter banquets with me and stuff like that. She was a good stand-in, but that was that, you know. Yeah, that was weird. But you see, I didn't know she was an introvert. I just thought she didn't want to come. I didn't know, you know. But I do now. I mean, I not now today.
Mhm.
Years later, I saw that she was when I grew up, you know. So that was that. That was a little bit of a sad time in my life with my mom. But you know, my mom was always there. She always encouraged me. She always watched my shows, and I mean, she always watched me practice. And you know, my mom would buy these hit parade books. They were called hot hits, and they'd have
Mhm.
music. They'd have the lyrics of the songs that were on the radio, and we would sing them together. And she loved to sing. And she would say to me, "Sing this song, Nancy," and I would sing it for her. And we did that right up to the day, not to the day, but right up till she died, when she was in her 90s. When we go for a ride, she'd say, "Nancy, sing Quand le soleil du bonjour aux montagnes" to me. Or, "Nancy, sing the September songs," or "From a Jack to a Queen." And I wouldn't think twice. I'd be riding along, belting out a song. So that
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. I was never shy or ashamed or anything with her. We sing all the time.
Oh, that's great. So she passed away when she was 92. How long has that been since then?
That's 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 12 years ago. She had a tumor in her intestines, and it was blocking it. So
Oh,
she had
geez.
a choice either to leave it or to get it removed. Now,
Mhm.
if she would have left it, sooner or later everything would have just came up, and it would have
Mhm.
been very painful for her. So she only had a
Mhm.
75% chance of living, but she took it. And she went through the operation, and she seemed okay, actually. She seemed very happy because she wasn't in pain. My mom, the only thing my mom had, she had osteoporosis. It runs through my family, eh? You know,
Mhm.
osteoporosis with that. She had the hump. My grandmother had a bigger hump on her back. It was like, you know, bent over. Like we all, I don't have it yet, but it's there. I think it's lurking somewhere. But we all, it runs through our family. So my mom was always in pain with this. And when after she had her operation, she was not in pain. She says, "Nancy, I feel great. I feel so good. I've never felt this good my whole life." And I'm thinking, wow. So she said, "You go home because I'm having a really nice rest." I said, "Okay." So as I was tucking her in, I happened to look, and in the back, I saw a hypodermic needle. the kind they give you when you're in pain, when you're in labor.
Mhm.
That's why she didn't feel any pain. That's why she felt so good.
So she was nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
That's good. Something to be said for that, for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. She was okay. So I left that day, and I was planning to see her the next day. But that night, they took the needle out, and all her organs shut down. She died.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So does it make you kind of sad that like because you thought you were going to see her the next day. So did you ever feel bad that you didn't get to, do the goodbye thing or anything like that? Or I don't know.
Well, I was, yeah, well, yeah, my sister and I we left right away. She died 15 minutes before I got to the hospital because I was working. I work at 11 at night to 7 in the morning. So I had to call
Mhm.
somebody in like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they came in, but I was 15 minutes late, and she died, and I met my sister at the hospital, and of course it was really sad. It was really sad. But we had so many
Mhm.
years with my mom, so like, what are you gonna do? She died, know. But I think my mom knew that was going to happen because the day we left her apartment, she said she looked back and said, "This is the last time I'm going to see this place."
Hmm.
Yeah, I think she knew because she only had a 75% chance to live.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, they do say that there's some kind of intuition with a lot of people, they do kind of have an idea. So,
yeah.
it seems like she was at peace with it from what you're saying, I mean, she did live a really good long life, so that's amazing.
Well, my mom was at peace. She never was afraid of dying. My mom said the worst thing that can happen in life is to get old. She hated getting old. She hated it. In her mind, she was 39 years old, and she thought she could run a marathon, but she couldn't. She had to use a walker. At the end, probably around 85, she started using a walker. She hated it. She
Mhm.
thought she could do anything. She didn't like getting old. She said that's the worst thing in life for people getting old. She didn't like it at all. And she didn't like ageism. She called it ageism. I think that is a word.
Mhm.
She
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, she said, "Nancy, don't tell anybody how old you are because they'll put you in that class and they'll think you can't do anything." She says, "I'm smart. I can do things because my body can't. They think I'm just an old woman." So she never liked to tell anybody how old she was. I actually thought she was 94, but she's 92 once I thought about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's easy to lose track. It's funny because my grandpa, he lived to be 93, and, I remember I went to go visit him in the hospital because he had like, a pacemaker put in,
Mm.
and I remember the nurse coming in, and she she, like, yelled. She said, "How are you today, Andy?"
Yeah.
Like, yelling at him, and he looked at me and he goes, "Apparently, she thinks I had my ears worked on and not my heart." I just died laughing. I thought that was so
That's
funny for a
exactly.
93-year-old.
Hmm. They did that to her too. She'd say, "Well,
Yeah.
who are you yelling at?"
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else.
She sounds like she was a great lady. That's awesome.
My mom was a real caretaker. Is it a caretaker or caregiver? What's the word for that?
I think caretaker. Yeah,
It,
I think, it sounds like she was really always taking care of everybody
yeah, because
and
my grandmother lived with us, and she took care of my grandmother until my grandmother died at 19. My grandmother was born 1876, and she died 1976, and my mother took care of her almost the whole time.
that's incredible.
Yeah, and my
That's
grandmother was a bigger introvert. I don't ever remember my grandmother going out of the house. Ever. Oh yeah, just once when she had to take tests at the hospital. But I never remember my grandmother going out. And the only time my grandmother got up was when everybody was in bed. She'd get up and go have something to eat, and then go back to her room.
I wonder because my grandma on my dad's side, my dad's mom, she was like that. I remember we wanted to go look at Christmas lights, just drive around, like we were just going to get in the car, and she was probably like 80 at the time, and she was like, "Oh no, I'd have to get my hair done, and I'd have to find an outfit," and we're like, "We're just going in the car,
That's
like we're not
it.
going to see anybody."
Yeah.
And I thought that was so straight. I mean, I was like, I don't know, maybe like 13 or something at the time or 15, and I thought that was so weird. I was like, just get in the car, like
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. So I don't know, maybe that's like a woman thing, like, but women back in the day were really, more oppressed than they are now, even though, we still have a way to go, but maybe that's a thing.
It went on today. Even when she was in her 80s and 90s, it still went on.
Hmm.
She would only go out with my sister and I, only. And she would only go shopping or get her hair done or go to a restaurant. That's it. My mom had no friends. She was lonely a lot of times. I remember once I actually bought my mom 7 sessions from a VON nurse
Mm-hmm.
to go in once a week and go there, make her a little sandwich, a nice dainty cucumber sandwich. My mother always liked stuff like that with a little dainty cup and play cards. And this woman went twice a week. I paid her 1 hour a week, and she always stayed too because she just was crazy about my mom. So she went like twice a week, had sandwich and played cards with my mom, stayed about 2 hours, and she did that for about a month. So I kind of bought my mom some company
Well, that's nice.
because nobody would go. I mean, my mom she has about 20 something grandchildren, but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't go to their homes. They would invite her. She never went. So of course they thought she didn't love them. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
after they hear this podcast, I'm sure they're going to know. Ah, like my children know my mother very well because I brought my kids to my mom's all the time. So they all have their own
That's good.
experience with their nana all the time. I was in and out of their home all the time. I was married and I left my first husband. I went back. I went back with the kid. And then
Mm-hmm.
my mother helped raise my oldest son, Alexander. She helped me. And when I went back to my first husband, I had 2 more children. And finally, when I left that relationship, guess where I went with 3 kids? Back to my mom's.
Yeah.
My father would say, "Oh God, she came back with 2 more."
You multiplied.
I multiplied. My mom was there to help me with the kids. Of course,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I found my own place and everything, but my mom was always there. She was always a caretaker all the time. She helped me feed them. She helped me clothe them. I remember when the first day they all had to go to school, she helped me clothe them for the first day. You know how kids want to wear the nicest stuff the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And when they left, we would get out the Kahlua and milk because she wasn't a big drinker. But it'd be like 8:30 in the morning. We'd have some milk, a little Kahlua, and toast, and go yippee, yay, they're gone, yay! We dance around. My kids would be so mad when they say, "Huh, what's wrong with you? Oh, we're so happy. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye."
Hey, but now they get it,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure.
they get it. Yeah, she was always a caretaker, and she was really, really good. But she was lonely, She alienated herself from so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that happens a lot with, that generation. And I think, well, I mean, it sounds like you did a good job of taking care of her. So that's, great. And you said that was 12 years ago. So when after she passed away, did it take you a while to be able to talk about it? Is it something that you talk about often? Or I know you said you have siblings as well. So I mean, how has that played out ever since she's been gone?
Well, my sister and I are very close, and my sister and I always went to take care of my mom. She lived in her own apartment. We did everything we can to take care of her, to entertain her. She was our friend. And when she died, I took the role on as to separate all her stuff. She wanted all her stuff to go to Salvation Army. She really believed in the Salvation Army because the Salvation Army
Mhm.
helped the family out in the Depression days. Their place was really cold, she told me, so they had no coal. And the Salvation Army came in with a truck and put coal in her home. And she never forgot that. And so she said, if anything happens to me, I want you to give everything I own to Salvation Army. And I did, but I didn't give the gold. We kept the
Well,
jewelry.
yeah.
Yeah, we kept the jewelry. We put it among the family. Um,
Mhm.
but so I was I don't know what you would call it. I I didn't I didn't kind of mourn yet. I don't think I just had separated. I had to clean the apartment, separate things. I sat in her chair. I think I was in
Mhm.
shock, to tell you the truth.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
I was in
sure.
shock. Yeah, and I just I remember that I was so used to going to her place because I went to her place. I lived 5 minutes away, and I was there like 75% of my time. I was there, and I went there three,
Mhm.
4 times a day. And so when I was at home, I had I had nothing to do, yet I had a lot to do, but my mom was I was like, "Where are you, Mom?" And I would get in my car and I'd go over to her apartment and sit in the parking lot and just look up on the balcony. Um, I think you call it a balcony. We call it a balcony in
Mhm.
in Quebec, or gallery. I don't know. I would say balcony, and I would
Mhm.
picture her and I sitting there having a cup of tea, and it would I would feel better. And I did that for a few weeks. When I felt bad, I would go to where she used to live and sit in the parking lot. And then I saw a light on and I thought I can't be doing this anymore. Someone lives there.
Mm.
So it's so then I went home and time heals, Jesse, I didn't cry a lot because my mom would say, "Listen, you're crying for yourself. You're pitying yourself. You're not crying for me. I'm gone. I'm with my family." She really believed she was going to be with her sister and her mom and that. Stop crying. Live your life. So
Mhm. Something to be
and
said
it's
for
kind of
that.
yeah, yeah, she would say, if you cry too much, you're just gonna hurt yourself. There's nothing you should cry about. I mean, it's okay to cry, of course. I really believe in crying. You have to just get that off of you have to get it out of your soul. But then there's come a time that you got to stop.
Mm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And if you go on for years of mourning for your mom, that it kind of tells you need someone to talk to. That's why I believe in the bereaved families and stuff like that. If it goes on too long, you're only hurting yourself. So, but
Mhm.
the funniest thing is that my sister and I are caretakers too, of course, and we take care of our family's grave sites. It's in Maxville. I have a father who died. I have two brothers who died. So it's my sister and I, and one brother left. But we would go down there on their when they passed, and we would put flowers down, and we would talk and that. And my sister said, "What are we doing?" I said, "What?" She says, "Let's not do this anymore. Let's not come down here." Because I knew everybody. I knew when everybody died. I knew the dates. She said, "Let's stop this. Let's celebrate their life. Let's come down when they're on their birthdays and celebrate their life. Let's forget about this." I said, "Yeah." So as of today, I don't know when anybody died. I only know people's birthdays. My dad, November 13th. My mom, June 28th. My brother, November 23rd. My other brother, September 31st. I have no idea when he died. I had to look it up for this podcast.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a nice concept then. You let go of that, the sad part, and now you're just keeping the happy part. I think that was probably an important switch for you.
It was because we go down there on everybody's birthday. We put flowers there. We make sure that the grave sites are nice and clean, and well, we do that like 4 times a year. But plus, we go on Mother's Day too. You know, and
Mhm.
yeah, we're good at doing stuff like that. So that's how we handled the grieving. It,
That's good. Well, it's nice that you have your sister in that journey with you. My sister and I try to lean on each other as well. Of course, it's only been, 2.5 years since my mom's been gone, and my sister's in Colorado, so that's pretty darn far away from here in Chelsea, Quebec. So, but it's
yeah,
nice that you guys had that to go through together.
yeah, yeah, we do. And I'm reminded of my mom quite a bit because my sister looks like my mom.
Mhm.
And my cousin, who's my best cousin in the world, Kathy, she looks like my mom because my mom's brother and her resemble each other. So Kathy looks like her father, so Kathy looks like my mother. And so I see the resemblance. Plus, the big thing is I have my mother's hands. When I look
Oh,
down
so
at my hands,
every time you look down, you see him.
yes, yes, I have my mother's hands. I've taken care of my mom a long time. I know what she smells like. I know I don't have the smell, but the oil of Olay, the Palms cold cream that always brings me back to my mom. But I just look at my hands and there's my mom.
Hmm. That's really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are some things that you guys do? I mean, I know you said you go down to the gravesite during the birthdays and you go on Mother's Day, but what are some other, are there any other traditions, let's say during the holidays or anything that you do to kind of keep her memory with you or with your kids? Just keeping her alive through that memory.
Well, no, no. My sister and I, we even though she lives pretty close, she has her own family. She has a huge family like I do. We always meet about once a month. We go to movies, we go to dinner. We always talk about mom. We always say, "Oh, mom would like that." "Oh, gee, you're wearing a coat that looks just like mom." "Oh, look at that woman in the back. She's got the same hair." Our mother is always with us, and our children. Unfortunately, my sister's children doesn't know my mom that much because my mom alienated them, because she
Mhm.
didn't want to go out. So I'm sure my sister's kids have their own memories, especially my niece Nancy. She helped me a lot with my mother. So I'm sure they have their memories. My kids have a lot of memories because I always brought them there. So there's pictures of my mom at my son's house. And my daughter is wearing my mom's wedding rings. She got married 2 years ago. I gave her my mom's wedding rings. So when she looks at her hands, and my daughter has my hands, she also sees my mother's wedding rings.
Oh, that's so special.
Yeah.
That's so, so special.
Mhm. So my mom's with me all the time. And I remember in one of your podcasts, you said you said to a woman, did you, have your mother, you believe in your mother ever visiting you?
Mhm.
My mom visited me December the 23rd of this of just last month.
Oh, yay.
Yep.
I love visits.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see her, but I felt her presence. What happened was, um, my husband and I were going to visit our children for Christmas, and they all live far from me. First, we went to my daughter's place, and we
Mhm.
stayed overnight. But my husband's knee went out on him, so my daughter had to bring him back home. But I continued the next morning to Alexander's place in Whitby. When I left at 11 o'clock in the morning, and this is only a 4-hour drive, I was going through freezing rain. Something happened to my windshield, and the rubber came off, so I got off the next exit. I was in Kentville. They were very nice, and they helped me get back on the road. It took me 7.5 hours to get to Whitby.
Ooh.
It was horrible. And I got there at 7:30, and I went to bed at 9. I was so tired, so tired.
Mhm.
I woke up at 4:30 in the morning. Someone told me, "Nancy, go home. Nancy, go home." I knew it was my mom. I knew it. Because from then, the next morning, I was supposed to go see my son and his family in St. Mary's. That's near London. That's another 4-hour drive or 3-hour drive.
Mhm.
I didn't go. I phoned Ali. I text Stephen, my oldest son, and said, "Stephen, I can't go. I think Nana's telling me not to do it." And my son said, "Listen to her, Mom. She is telling you not to do it. The roads are bad. Listen to her." So I got up to leave, and Alexander was happened to be up because he was getting ready to do something. I said, "I have to leave." And Alexander said, "Mom, you can't leave until you say goodbye to the children. They're going to be so upset." He has 3 children. They'll be upset. Their Nana's gone. So I stayed till about 10 o'clock, and then I left to go back to Cornwall. It took me 3 hours, beautiful weather.
Mhm.
I listened to 3 of your podcasts. It was a wonderful drive. I was so happy to be home. I kissed the dog. I kissed the floor. I kissed my husband in that order. And I said, "That's it." My mom told me, get home and stop this winter driving." And I did. I knew it was my mom.
Oh, that's I love it. I love my mom always told me that she would, because my mom knew she was going to die, and she told me that she would visit me, and if she was ever telling me anything, it was always something that I needed to hear.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I totally believe you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. If I have a problem to solve, I think, what would my mom say? What would my mom do? And then I
Mhm.
would know what to do. She was so supportive. She was so smart. She was so wise. She was just her worst enemy. That's all.
Mm. A lot of times we all can be, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, first of all, thank you for saying that you were listening to my episodes. That's so nice. So,
Mhm.
that the theme of the show is, the pearls of wisdom from your mom.
Mhm.
And, it doesn't have to be one saying or anything like that, but if you could just give us an idea of what you think your mom's best pearl of wisdom is. Can you think of something for us?
Oh, yes, I know what it is because I do it every day. take care of yourself. She really believed that if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to end up in the hospital or end up seeing your doctor. And when you get older, your doctor, I'm not saying anything bad about doctors, mind you, but they just give pills. And when they give you a pill for an ailment, it has side effects. And then you got to take another pill for that side effect and another pill for that side effect until you got a whole prescription of pills. My mom believed in take care of yourself. Stay away from the doctors and hospital if you can by eating well, by exercising, moisturizer, moisturizing, moisturizing. you know, take care. Yeah, oh yeah. Take and just overall take care of yourself so you don't have to go to a hospital, so you don't have to keep going to your doctors. And I do that every day, and I'm not on any medication. I'm 67. A lot of people say I don't look my age. No, I'm 66. I'm sorry. And I strive to live the way my mom said to, and it's working. That's
I
the
think
best
that's
advice.
awesome.
Yep. Take care of yourself, really, so you don't end up taking medication.
I think that's great. Well, this is going to air in the first part of the new year, so you're my first interview of 2018, and this will be in the first part of the new year. So a lot of people are going to be, taking good care of themselves. So hopefully this will
Mhm.
inspire them to just like keep it up.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. So that's where I get the caretaking from. My mom. I think
Hmm.
that's why I work as a counselor, why I take care of women and help them empower themselves. It's just I learned that from my mom.
Well, I could definitely see that. I see that. And
Mm.
I think something that you just said a little while back, you said that when you don't know how to get through something tough, you always think about how your mom would have dealt with it and it works for you. And I think that's a really great way to not only keep your mom alive in your brain, but also, I get stressed out a lot when I think of, my kid's got a fever. And the first person that I would ever call would be my mom, because my mom, too, like yours, helped me take care of, especially my son when he was born. And
Mhm.
so, when he gets sick and I don't have any, I mean, like I don't have her to call, I do get kind
Mhm.
of stressed out. So I think that piece of advice that you gave a little while back could help me saying, okay,
Mhm.
what would my mom do in the situation? And how can I implement that for myself?
Good. Good. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
I think that's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I know that you talked a little bit about your grieving process. You said that you didn't, you try not to cry over it and all of that. Do you have any advice maybe for somebody who is either new to the grieving process or somebody who is having a hard time with the grieving process? Do you have any advice for?
Well, grieving is what it is, and there's no shame in crying. There's not at all. I really believe that. Get that. Go and have a good cry, and cry as much as you want, but don't keep it up because you're just going to hurt yourself. You're not hurting anybody because the more you cry, the more you feel bad. So just don't keep it up. But of course, go through the grieving process. You might be in shock. It gets better, believe you me, every day or every week or every month. I don't know how long it takes. It does get better, you know. But go through it, but don't keep it up. And if anybody out there who's grieving for years, they need to get some help. They need to get a counselor and talk to them, or they need to join the bereaved family because that's a group of people who will help you through it.
That's true. There are people that specialize in that, and I think, a lot of times there's a stigma. I know, I had a tough time in the beginning, and I wasn't sure that needed to go see somebody, and then I think it was my husband, and like he's my husband's such a good caretaker of me, and he's such a nice person, but he's like, "Look, this is getting hard on me. So, like,
Yeah.
if you could go find somebody to talk to," and that's super legit. And
Yeah.
I mean, my husband is my best friend. He's my, person that I confide in the most. But if I'm dumping all of my grief onto him,
Mhm.
that can't, that's not healthy for our relationship either. So
Right.
I definitely I'm a huge advocate for going out,
Mhm.
seeking whether it be a psychologist or a grief counselor, or like you said, there in almost every area there has to be some kind of bereavement group, and
Yes.
usually there's multiple groups. So just go to one until you find one that you like.
Mhm.
Um,
That's right.
and there will be people that, you'll see that you're not alone, and that's probably the whole entire reason I wanted to do this podcast was
Mm-hmm.
just sometimes you do feel alone, even though you have a sister and I have a sister, but sometimes, it's pretty easy to say, oh, well, I'm the only one that knows what this feels like, even though there are lots of people. So I think you're totally right about, seeking the help that you need and don't feel bad about it at all.
Right, right. And time heals too, so don't worry. It's not going to be like this forever. Time will heal. Your mother will always be with you, either in your hands, in your heart, in your family's faces, your memories. You never, ever forget your mom.
Ah, that's so true. Those are great words.
Mhm.
Well, cool, Nancy. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about your mom, or do you think we covered everything about her?
No, I think I covered everything about it. Probably later on I'll think of something else. I've had a long time to be with my mom, but no, it's talk to people about your mom. You have a fabulous podcast, and you're giving me a platform to talk about it. Now I have a legacy to give to my grandchildren because I have 11 grandchildren, and I
Oh,
have
wow.
a great grandson. I have a big family. I have 4 kids, 3 children and 1 stepdaughter. I have a big family. Um, Now they can listen to this, and they can
Yeah.
listen to this forever, all because of your podcast. So thank you so much for giving all of us this opportunity to talk about our moms.
Oh, I'm so happy to do it. I'm happy that when I started it, I had no idea if anybody would ever want to come on here, but I thought, well, I'll just start it and see what happens. And I've been so amazed by the response and people like you who've listened and wanted to come on here. And I have your son to thank for kind of connecting us, which is great because he's a podcaster as well. And I got a chance to be on his podcast. And
Hmm.
so I
Yeah.
think that's amazing.
Yeah, if he didn't do the podcaster's life, I would never have spoken to you. So everybody listen to the podcaster's life.
That's right. That's right. He's a great. His name is Alexander. I can post a link to his podcast in my show notes as well, in case anybody wants to check out his cool podcast. And he's also writing a book, and he asked me to do a little part in his book too. So
Yeah, yeah, and he's doing this mini improvs now. It's so funny. He did one with you. I just
yeah,
listened to it today. What was that? I don't know what it's about. Uh,
we got the word
Boring.
boring. Yeah.
Yeah, boring. Oh, it was so funny, and I laughed when he said, "So what's your last words, Jesse?" And you went, "Boring, being bored, or something, or right on boring, or something like that." Anyways, you made me laugh.
Oh, that's good. It's funny because my son, who's 9 but feels like he's like 19,
Yeah,
he's everything is boring to him, like, because it's just all like he's like way too cool for me
yeah.
right now, which I thought would happen later in life. I don't understand. He's 9. I thought we still had a few good years of him being like cute, but no.
No, no, that's it. You're gone. Well, don't ever give up hugging them because when I hug my kids, I hug them too much and they call me, oh, here comes Smother. Instead of Mother, they call me
Mhm.
Smother.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I will not. My mom, it's funny because my mom was always into lipstick. She loved lipstick and earrings. Those were her things.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
even when I was in college, my mom, even probably, all the way up, I was 35 when she passed away. So even probably all the way up until the day that she died, anytime she would leave, she'd always have bright lipstick on and she would always kiss me at least on one cheek, usually on two, and leave these big lipstick marks on my cheek. When I was younger, I was like, oh, mom, knock it off, but as I got older, I started, if she didn't do it, I'd be like, hey, where's my lipstick kiss? Let's go.
That's cool.
Yeah, those good little memories. Well, Nancy, you are a delight, and you had so many good insights and so many cool things to share about your mom. And if you ever think, if you wake up in the morning and you think of something you forgot, you just let me know. We can add to it. But I think that this was a really nice conversation, and I'm so thankful for you coming on
Oh,
here.
well, thank you. Thank you so much, Jesse. Keep on doing what you're doing, and I'll keep on listening.
See, I told you Nancy was a sweet lady, and I really appreciate her coming on. She actually did remember something after we got off, after I stopped recording. She remembered something about her mom that I thought was just too cool. Her mom was super into WWE wrestling, like knew everybody's names and like career statistics and stuff about them. So I thought that was a really cool little fun fact. Like now I'm picturing her, at like 90 being like, yeah, go get him, The Rock, and all that cool stuff. So I want to thank Nancy Jessie, for coming on. I want to thank you for listening. And I would really love to interact with you. So if you are so inclined, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Pearls from My Mom. I have a private Facebook group for people that want to just, find some support and have some discussions there. So that's all linked to everything as well. I've got the website, pearlsfrommymom.com. And if you feel like supporting the podcast, you can go onto my Patreon page, give a few bucks. There's some cool rewards on there. So please do that. And otherwise, you can also, share with your friends, share on the social media, and, do some iTunes reviewing and all that good stuff. So anyway, listeners, thank you so much for listening this week. And I will hear you back next week over here at Pearls from My Mom. And as always, keep sharing to keep the legacy alive.